Come on in, everyone. Come on in because we are here for Married at First Sight, Season 19, Episode 9. Oh, my goodness, y'all. Now I know why you've been wanting me to catch up with you. I cannot believe we are about to have a Married at First Sight baby in the middle of the season. Is this a first for all my Married at First Sight fans? Is this the first time we have a Married at First Sight baby in the middle of the season? I really am enjoying this episode, this season rather. And I'm gonna circle on back to this Megan and Derek story because I'm gonna tell you, this has been a journey with them. And can I believe it? I can believe it. Could I have believed it at the beginning? No. But once I started to see the resilience of these two, right? That stubbornness, right? It's almost like when resilience can be great, it can really make you stronger. But if you stick too closely to it, it ends up being stubbornness. I talked a lot about the stubbornness of Derek and Megan. But what I'm going to want to do later on, y'all, what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to juxtapose the stubbornness and what I want to call the good side of it with Derek and Megan is the resilience versus two other couples, Josh and Jalen and Will and Brittany. And those two couples I'm going to call the fragility. I really want to talk about stubbornness and resilience versus fragility and fear. I think it played a huge point in how Megan and Derek have been able to sort of turn their relationship around versus how we see Will and Brittany struggling. And we also see Jalen and Josh stumbling. But before we get all the way to talk about them, I'm going to go ahead and play my introduction video. And when we come back, we are going to talk about all these couples. See you in a minute. Y'all, we are back. And I know a lot of y'all want to get to the good part, Derek and Megan, but before we get to the good part, Derek and Megan, let me just get this off my chest. And what I want to get off my chest is shut up, RHONDA. Shut the heck up, RHONDA. Y'all. I'm so sick of RHONDA. I really am sick of RHONDA, y'all. There's no hope in RHONDA. Let me tell you why there's no hope in RHONDA. I keep telling people that when you enter in a relationship and you're finding yourself having the same old issues over and over again, stop saying it's the person you're in a relationship with. You got to go back and look at yourself. How long have you had this problem? How long has this been going on? Where did it start? Now, we have this episode with RHONDA and Pat. They're on their way to go visit RHONDA's dad's gravesite. Another RHONDA story. Another moment where we have to listen to RHONDA and her life. Can I hear anything about Pat? What the heck is going on with Pat's father? What went on with Pat's father that he passed with his mother? Can we hear anything about Pat at all? Or do we have to hear every doggone story from RHONDA? She's exhausting. But get this, y'all. We're driving to RHONDA's father's grave. First of all, did y'all notice that Pat is driving RHONDA's car? Okay. So you're driving RHONDA's Mercedes Benz. You got to concentrate on the road. You're driving a car you're unfamiliar with. Rhonda didn't even put on the GPS system. Instead, she's over in the passenger seat saying, turn here, do this, do that. And all at the same time, we've got to listen to Rhonda's stories about her father, about her grandfather, about her uncle. Rhonda, what do you want the man to do? Do you want him to concentrate on not crashing your Mercedes Benz? Or do you want him to listen to every single story you have? Even when she started telling stories and you had Pat trying to interject some relatable moments in his life, Rhonda immediately goes to, oh, here you go again, taking over the conversation. I'm trying to share a vulnerable moment with you, and here you are talking about yourself. Rhonda, you were talking about how you and your brother found Playboy magazines in an attic or a closet. How was that a vulnerable moment? Then she turns it around and saying he's not curious. No, it's not that we're not curious. We're tired, Rhonda. It's two different things. Then they get to the graveyard. Rhonda has the nerve to tell this man, don't step on the graves. How the heck am I not going to step on graves, Rhonda, and I'm in a cemetery? This is crazy. When I saw Rhonda sit down and kneel at her father's graveside, I said, this is where Rhonda needs to be. Talking to dead people, because dead people don't talk back. Needs to be where she stays, where she can talk, and the dead people do not interrupt her. They do not interject. They don't do anything. She needs to just move in to the cemetery. Then she started talking about more when she was 19 and her father died. Let me tell you when I really knew there is no hope for Rhonda. Because I told you guys what Rhonda does is even when she tells stories where she's the victim, I often see that she doesn't understand other people's perspective. So Rhonda starts to say, the reason why I struggle and I'm triggered so much from you, Pat, where I don't feel heard, I don't feel seen, I feel like you're not curious about me and I'm insecure, it goes back to my childhood. At that point in time, I was all ears. I said, is Rhonda about to have a breakthrough? Great, Rhonda. I'm listening now. You say people don't listen to you, Rhonda. I'm listening now. Tell me what you're coming up with, Rhonda. Rhonda says, well, growing up, I felt like I wasn't chosen by my daddy. Okay, Rhonda, keep talking. I'm listening. Well, I felt like my father chose my sister over me. Okay. And as a result, I'm always fighting to be chosen. That's why it's important for you to listen to me. I don't know, Rhonda. This is not connecting dots for me. And so what she said was, yeah, my father would take my sister to all these events. He would do all these fun things with her. And then I said to myself, here we are again, Rhonda. So Rhonda is looking at her father's interaction with her sister. And she has decided to say that in that moment, her father didn't choose her, but her father chose her sister. Well, Rhonda, what you need to ask yourself is why. Because what I'm about to get to right now is Rhonda has been this way since a child. I keep telling people, when all you do is focus on yourself, when you take up so much room, so much space in the room, and there's no room for anyone else, no room for anyone's likes, dislikes, conversations, what people will start to do to you is abandon you and leave you. And what Rhonda hasn't failed to look at is her first abandonment happened when her father got tired of listening to her. Her father probably felt, wow, everything has to be done the way Rhonda wants it. Rhonda never probably tried to find things in common, likes with her father. You see, this is what I talk about with women. And this is going to end up being a transition into Jalen and Belinda and Josh. What I suspect happened to Rhonda in her childhood, her father did not choose her sister because her father loved that sister more, not initially. But over time, what I suspect is that sister was much better finding things in common with that father so that they could bond over like activities. They both could be satisfied when they hung out together. Something the father liked to do, something the daughter liked to do. And they found common ground. But what I suspect about RHONDA, because it's what we see here in her adult life, RHONDA doesn't look to blend with anyone. She wants you to blend with her. She said it from the very beginning. I want someone to accept me as I am. And I told everyone that was going to be a problem. When you enter the world wanting everyone to blend and bend in your direction, there will be some people who do it. There will be some people who do it sporadically, but everyone will get tired. And when everyone feels as if they have to lose themselves so much to blend with you, they will flee you. They will run from you, and you'll start to feel abandoned, and it'll become a negative cycle. But this is what people have to understand. Sometimes the abandonment doesn't come first. Sometimes the abandonment comes second. And when RHONDA sits here and tells us the reason she needs Pat to listen to her, and listen to her is because she wants to be chosen, what she's really saying is, no, RHONDA, you want to dominate. You want everyone to bend to what you want. You're not willing to compromise. And when you weren't willing to compromise even with your own father in doing some things he may also enjoy, what would happen is he gets a choice. He can hang out with a daughter who wants everything her way, or he can hang out with a daughter who can compromise, who can bend, who can flex. So once again, RHONDA's telling us the story of how she's the victim with her father, and I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced at all. And when we talk about inflexibility with men, with a male counterpart, I'm going to go ahead and parlay and transition into Jalen and Josh. I was wondering about Josh. I said, you know what? The last episode, he was accused of lying. He was accused of saying that, did he really stop unfollowing the ex-girlfriend? And in the end, he didn't. He admitted to it. He admitted that he lied. He admitted that he said he was going to unfollow her, but he didn't do it. And because of that, Jalen is now feeling hurt, and she's wondering whether or not she can trust him. I think that's a fair emotion on Jalen's part. When someone just lies to you, it is fair to now feel hurt. It is fair to feel like there has been a broken link in the chain of trust. But thank goodness that the experts came through. That is one thing I'm loving about this season, that these experts are not only showing up, but they are tag teaming these couples. I liked Dr. Pia and Pastor Cal tag teaming these couples. And what they came to do with Jalen and Josh says, hey, let's stop talking about all these niceties. Let's stop talking about all these fluffs. Let's get to the nitty gritty. And what I liked about the experts, they basically had to tell Jalen to her face, listen, this little hypervigilance, that's what they called it. That's fine. They're the experts. They have better words than me. Hypervigilance, I called it fragility. Fragility, right? Whereby you can't withstand anything. You're so fragile, you can't handle any bump in the road. And even at this bump in the road, this lie that Josh told about unfollowing a woman, here we have Jalen already ready to walk out the door. You will not make it in marriage if you are this fragile. And what I liked about the experts, they called it what it was. Did they talk about the lie that Josh told? Yeah, they did. But they called out Jalen's hypervigilance, is what I was talking about the last time. Now, in this repair job that needs to be done, there's two things that have to be done. One is Josh does have to know that his wife is hypervigilant. But guess what? She's going to have to get better. Because if she does not get better, this relationship will be built on always coddling the fragility of Jalen. Just like her mama said on her little episode, that Mama Belinda said to Chad, I feel like he's got me in a cocoon. I feel so safe. She's speaking about herself as if she's a baby, that she's so fragile. You cannot make it in the world being this fragile because people make mistakes. No one's going to be perfect. And if your survival is built on people being perfect and it's built on a person never hurting you or never lying to you or never any of these things, you will not make it. Do you want a person who lies all the time? No, but you can't be a person that's willing to run out the door, that crumbles at the first time as something as a lie over unfollowing a person. If there was something more to it, Jalen, I could understand. But a simple unfollowing and you're already willing to walk out the door, you're too fragile. You're too fragile. And I liked what the experts called out. They said, why are you guys trying to be so nice to each other? Let's speak the truth, right? And when they finally got to the truth, Jalen was able to say, I don't really want to go to Burning Man. I don't want to go to any festivals. I don't want to do any of this. Well, guess what, Jalen? That's fine. I'm glad you're finally speaking your truth. But you got to know there's consequences to that truth. You better go over there and talk to RHONDA. You better go over and talk to RHONDA. How does a person fare out in the world, especially a woman, when she doesn't have any like interest with men? You see, everything can't be about nails and pedicures and spas and wine tasting, okay? If a man feels as if he's got to give up everything he enjoys in order to spend time with you, one or two things are gonna happen. One is you're not gonna spend any time together because he's not gonna continually give up things he wants to do all these softball activities you wanna do. You better build some ability to have other things you like. And the problem with Jalen and her mother, Belinda, they have never learned activities that are liked by not only men, but also women. And this is a problem with them bonding with men. So now what we have is we have Josh's trigger. Because what Josh is hearing from these experts is that, wow, in order for me to make Jalen feel safe because she's so fragile, I've got to give up everything that's important to me. And Josh started crying. He said, I'm not willing to do that. And Jalen was there saying, I'm not going to Burning Man, period. Okay, Jalen, what's going on with this hard line in the sand? What is going on? Why can you not come out your comfort zone? Why must you stay in a cocoon? Where is the compromise? Where is the discussion? Hey, Burning Man is 7 days. I'll go to Burning Man and stay with you 2 days, and I'll let you and your buddies hang out the other 5 days. What if we go to Burning Man every other year? What if we build other activities outside of Burning Man so it's not the only thing we get to do? Where are the ideas of compromise? Where are you offering something without just saying he's got to totally protect your fragility? It took him a long time to get there because what it took Josh to dig deep and to start explaining to her what was the connection between Burning Man and what was going on inside. And what Josh finally got to was, it is because Burning Man and these festivals are the closest thing I have to a community. And growing up the way I didn't always make friends well. I didn't always have a safe, secure community. Not like Jalen did when she grew up in a small town or whatever the case may be. I forget where they grew up. What Josh was saying is Burning Man is more than camping. It's community. And I'm glad he finally got there and he was able to explain it to Jalen. But this is where Jalen also has to learn to do some work. She's got to be more inquisitive about everyone needs to be more inquisitive about the whys. When you encounter a different point of view, instead of poo-pooing on people's points of views, you got to ask why. Why are you so connected to Burning Man? So that you can get to the more deeper reasoning. As they started talking it out, Jalen was rolling her eyes, and I was glad Josh told her, don't you ever roll your eyes at me, because that is very, very disrespectful. Okay? And I agree with him, because what she was getting exasperated on was that he was not willing to give her her way. She wanted to be able to say, I don't ever want to go to Burning Man ever. And let me tell you something, Jalen. Why wouldn't you even offer to say, hey, I've been to a festival before. I didn't have that great of a time. I didn't like it. But maybe it'll be different if I go with you. Why not try it, Jalen? Why were you drawing such a line in the sand? And the reason why is because what's most important to Jalen and her mother is their own safety, their own security, their own fragility. And I'm going to tell you, leading in relationships with fear, you think you're protecting yourself, you think that you're saving yourself from the breakup of the relationship, and actually by leading and walking in fear, you're actually causing the breakup of your relationship. That's what you're causing, because your fear is controlling all your movements, and your fear is becoming the ruler in your relationship. And therefore, that's what's going to make your relationship fracture. You cannot move in fear. In the end, Josh was able to explain it, and Jalen got a little bit more. But Jalen needs to try something more. I was still not pleased with her final answer, which was, we'll find other things to do. No, that's not enough, Jalen. You should, yes, find other things to do. Should you be required to go to Burning Man all the time? No. But you need to come closer to the table, Jalen. You need to say, you'll go every other year. You'll go 2 days and let him stay with his buddies for 5 days. Something. She did not offer anything because she was not willing to expose herself any more than what she feels safe with. I didn't like it. I didn't like it one bit, and I'm going to tell you this. And if she does not learn how to do this, I see that Josh will dig in more and he will dig deeper. And I think what it could do is it could depress him. It could really depress him. I really hope they figure this out. One part of me wanted to say, leave her ass at home, Josh. Leave her ass at home. If she cannot come up with some type of idea to find some common ground, a compromise, then leave her ass at home. I didn't like it, not one bit. And then we got to see Brittany and Will. Wow, are we learning even more about Brittany and Will? This episode, we saw that Will come out, the Will that came out in the first episode, when he was talking to that mom and daddy. And that mom and daddy were asking him about, do you play dominoes? Do you play spades? And he was, no, I'll play chess. That hard line, that not even trying to meet the parents in the middle ground, being that antagonist that I saw in the first episodes. We saw him appear in this episode, and it wasn't a good look. It was not a good look. But I will say this. Once again, the fragility of Brittany, right? Along with also the fragility of Will is what's breaking them apart. Neither of them are showing resilience. Neither one of them are showing the ability to push beyond themselves and get to a place where, although they're uncomfortable, they plow their way to a place of being comfortable. Instead, what both of these people are doing, they're waiting for the other person to make them feel comfortable, right? And it's a standoff. And this standoff is not a good thing. It was really interesting to see the conversation when Brittany says, I'm not sure of the way that Will feels about me. And Will says, well, why aren't you sure? Because every other day you ask me what my decision will be. And every other day I tell you it will be yes. And she says, yeah, but you also say it may not be that in a month, right? And that little part on the end that says I'm a yes today, but next month at the end, it may be a no. That's when Brittany says it makes me insecure. So what do you want, Brittany? Would you want Will to say it's a yes today and a yes forever, even though that's not the way he feels? Yes, that's what she wants. She wants him to lie to her, even though it's not the way that he feels. Because why? She needs him to appeal to her own fragility. That's what she needs. And I'm going to juxtapose Brittany versus Megan when we get there. I sure am. I'm going to juxtapose these two playbooks that they have. So when Will locks in on this idea that, oh, Brittany, I never knew you felt this way. Let me tell you what it triggered in Will. This is what I believe. The reason why Will has been holding out and he can't say a definitive yes is because what he's saying is, I don't know who you're going to be in a month. You may be someone I don't like. So therefore, who you are now, it's a yes. But if you turn out to be someone else, it's going to be a no later on down the road. That's what I think Will is saying. Well, Brittany says what that then does is it makes her walk on eggshells because she's afraid that at any moment in time, he will walk out the door. Will locks in on the idea that says, oh, wait a minute. So you're telling me, Brittany, all this time you haven't been being yourself? You haven't been speaking your truth? And that's what Will uses as the justification to not be all the way in. Because what he really is suspecting that, oh, will you be one person now just to get me to say yes? And after I say yes, you'll become a different person. That's his fear. He says, see, you're cheating yourself and you're cheating me. That's what he ended up saying because both of these two are leading with fear. Will is afraid that Brittany will be one person today and another person next week or next month. And Brittany is afraid that she hasn't gotten the assurance she needs from him now, right this second. Fear is controlling this entire relationship. See, the experts tried to tell Will, do you even know how to make her feel comfortable, how to make her feel safe? But here's the problem, experts. When making someone else feel safe comes at the complete expense of yourself, it's a very hard thing to ask. Let me tell you, people cannot stay safe when they're growing relationships. You both have to take risks. And here's the problem. When one person wants to sit back and say, you have to make me feel safe before I move, it will not work. It will not work. Both people have to be uncomfortable because being uncomfortable means you are stretching and growing towards each other. Do you want to be toxic? No. But comfortable, safe, secure, 100%? No, because oftentimes what that means is one person is having to give up so much of themselves. You saw it in Jalen and Josh. They both felt so safe and secure, supposedly in the beginning. Come to find out they weren't being completely honest with each other. That's what goes on. And so now, right now, what you have is you have Brittany saying she doesn't feel secure. I get it. I understand it. But in that not feeling secure, it triggers Will to believe, then that must mean you're not being yourself. You're trying not to make mistakes. That means I'm not seeing the real you, and that's making me not feel sure. You see, even when they talked about where you're going to live, we haven't talked about it. And Will says, yeah, I'm not going to move, but I'm going to keep my apartment. Brittany, in her fragility, immediately went to, oh, the reason you're keeping your apartment is because you really don't want to be with me. Once again, her insecurities driving her conclusion as opposed to asking a question. Well, why would you not want to move with me? Once that question was finally asked, Will said, because I'm on the road 4 days a week and my apartment is only 7 miles from the airport. So what I would like is, yes, I want us to live together, but I want us to be able to live in two separate places. That's completely different than what Brittany was thinking. But her fear drove her to come to a conclusion that wasn't real. And the only way you calm yourself is to ask questions. You cannot get to know the other person unless you ask questions. Will and Brittany both are very, very fragile in their insecurities. And as a result, they both want to be comfortable. Will wants to stay where he is, being comfortable. Brittany needs constant reassurance because she's uncomfortable. But we saw in Will that his answers were abrasive and sometimes they were very short. And that's the same thing we saw in him with those parents. And I said, That's that part of Will where he's not becoming a problem solver. He's saying what he believes and what he thinks, but with that is no problem solving. That's where he needs to get better. It's good that he can express his true emotions, but he needs to learn how to solve problems, how to find areas of compromise, how to find solutions. It's what he didn't do with the parents. When the parents said, do you know how to play dominoes? Do you know how to play spades? His answer was just a flat out no. There was no willingness to try to say, oh, I could learn. Oh, maybe you could teach me. Oh, I have an interest. And it's the same thing he's doing to Brittany. And Brittany's going to need him to come closer to the middle. But Brittany is also going to have to develop some resiliency, because you're not going to be able to last in this fragile state out here in the world in a relationship. There are too many things that happen. You're going to have to build strength in your marriage, a foundation of strength. And when you talk about strength, when you talk about grit, I believe this has been the key ingredient to Ice Princess Megan and Ice Prince Derek. I started to see as we went along in this season that these two have a lot in common. Last episode I told you we might as well start calling Derek an Ice Prince too. But let me tell you about these two. They are both Ice Princesses and Ice Prince. In fact, this whole episode started with them doing a cold plunge and an ice bath. I said, how fitting. And in the end, Megan outlasted Derek. Derek could only do 2.5 minutes in the ice bath, but Ice Princess Megan did a whopping 4.5 minutes. They took a part of them that could be toxic, which is their stubbornness, and they've turned it into a positive, which is their resilience, which means they don't give up. Megan said, I like to win, right? I believe Derek and Megan are alike. What they've been able to do, they've been able to take their stubbornness and they've been able to use that toughness, that grit, that ability to sit in an ice cold plunge and turn it to say, we're going to make this relationship work. Now, the way they express their discomfort is very, very different. I've said that. Megan, as she says, she likes to scream. She likes to curse. When she got in the ice bath, she was screaming and cursing at the top of her lungs. When Derek got in the ice bath, he was silent. But they were both feeling the exact same emotions, but they expressed them differently, right? They expressed them differently. We now find out they're having a baby. Interesting. We find out that Derek just told Megan that he loved her. Great. So you mean to tell me the I love you from Derek only came days before they found out that they were pregnant together? When I tell you that Derek also gets what he wants, he got what he wanted. In the end, he is getting what he wanted, and he is getting it even sooner than he wanted it. Megan is now pregnant, well ahead of the Christmas time frame, the 3-month time frame. Derek got what he wanted. So this idea that Derek is fragile and Megan is running over Derek, absolutely not true. The fact is what I said in my last video. These two are formidable opponents. And what I'm going to say is, if they can keep working on their stubbornness, learning how to find their middle ground, that's what's going to work for them. If they ever go back to their stubborn places and they ever go back to their corners, she in her corner, he in their corner, they could be so stubborn they can never find the middle ground. I hope that Derek's communication style, which is he is a person that knows how to de-escalate, that by bringing the temperature down in the room when Megan is screaming and yelling and cursing, it'll bring it down. But I will tell you this. What Derek also points to is that once he told Megan that he loved her, he said that she also settled down. She became more secure in it, and that also calmed her heightened sense of fear. It calmed her down. right? But prior to him telling her that he loved her, Megan had to use her own grit, her own strength to control her own emotions. This is the difference between Brittany. This is what I'm going to talk about. Initially, Derek was not giving Megan what she needed to feel safe. She was feeling vulnerable. She was feeling exposed, right? But once she found out she was exposed, she went into a place in which she used her resilience and strength to say, okay, let me dial it back a bit. Remember, she dialed it back? But what she wasn't going to do, she wasn't going to go over and chase down Derek, right? Because she needs an anxious reassurance. What she said was, okay, you're not ready to tell me that you love me? Was she happy about it? No. Was she hurt about it? Yes, she was. Did she express it? Yes, she did. But what she didn't do, she didn't then say, in order for me to feel safe, you, Derek, gonna have to feel unsafe yourself. And this is the difference. Because what Brittany needs, she actually needs the same exact thing Megan needed. But Megan's ice princess personality allowed her to sit in it longer. Just like Megan sat in that ice plunge pool for 4.5 minutes. That's where she sat. For 4.5 minutes, she sat there waiting for Derek to catch up with her. And she grinded it out. On the other hand, Brittany is the woman that couldn't stand even 30 seconds in the ice plunge pool. Now, what do we need? We want Megan to soften a bit. She don't need to grind it out for 4.5 minutes. But we need Brittany to be able to last more than 20 seconds. You see what I'm talking about? You need a balance. You need to have the ability to be both. You need to have the ability to have resilience, not walk in fear, but you also need to have the ability to be vulnerable. So I'm glad to see that Megan is working on her vulnerability. But let me tell you, Brittany and Jalen, they need to work on their resilience. And Derek says he's in love with Zoe. Zoe the dog is his bestie. He will take that dog out for a walk anytime because same thing with Derek. He softened. Derek and Megan start off hard, very, very hard. They relax over time. They soften over time. And this is why I believe in the past, they probably had problems connecting with other people because their hard exterior that they both have, if they're with a fragile person, that fragile person does not feel safe with them. But because the two of them are very resilient, even though they did not feel safe immediately in their relationship, they had a resilience to them that allowed them to grind it out to get to that better spot. And here they are, pregnant, having a baby. I'm happy for them. I am really, really happy for them. But let me tell y'all, I am loving this season. I feel like there are just so many lessons being learned this season. I love the experts tag teaming the couples. I love the experts showing up. I love that we are now seeing experts really invested in these couples working together. When I think when Married at First Sight was on the other network, it was almost as if the network was trying to break up the couples. This season, I feel like the experts are really trying to help the couples stay together. They're showing up sooner and in better ways for these people. I really hope it pays off for everyone. Well, of course, we already see it's going to be a yes for Megan and Derek. No way. I still believe it's going to be a yes for Jalen and Josh. As much as Jalen wants to complain, I don't think she's going to go anywhere. So far, I still see it less with Belinda and Chad because Chad hasn't done anything to spook Belinda. Unless he spooks her, because like I said, she's very, very fearful. I even see a yes there. The only couple I'm concerned about right now is Brittany and Will. I really, really hope that they can make it. I hope they can find their way to each other. When it comes to Rhonda and Pat, I sure hope it's a no. I hope Pat says no. The type of work that Rhonda needs, Pat does not need to entangle himself in this problem, because you're now seeing that this issue with Rhonda goes way back to her childhood. I really hope it's a no for them. But anyway, I will be back, y'all, for episode 10. See you soon. Bye.